I'm Larry Vallon, longtime concert promoter in the Los Angeles area and around the country, and happy to be here at IEBA. Well, I mean, you try to take a calculated risk in that you think when you're putting, it's a mathematical equation where you're taking the artist's guarantee in mind and the expenses of putting on a show, if you're renting a building or if you're paying stage-hands and you're advertising and all of those costs, insurance, et cetera, catering, it all stacks up. And you got to figure out if you charge this much money, and we can do 5,000 people, does that make sense? Because that's what we think the act can do. And so you sort of formulate that and figure out that equation and take that leap of faith. And then sometimes, you feel like that the guarantee that's being proffered or they're asking you to do doesn't make sense. We don't think the act is big enough to sell that many tickets. And at that point, you got to, as Kenny Rogers once said, know when to fold them. Well, I got to tell you, we had a chairman there, Lou Wasserman, whose background, besides all of his successes in film, had been an agent. And he and his partner Jules Stein in Chicago represented a lot of the big bands in the country. So he had a lot to do with the design of the amphitheater and its acoustics and its amenities and dressing rooms and every square inch of it. He and his wife Edie picked the paint colors. I mean, he was totally involved, and he became such a great mentor to me because of the fact that he had all this experience. It's like I'd bring up and say we had to cancel this show, and say, he says, why'd you have to cancel? The guy had a drug problem, and he goes, we had drug problems too, So he was doing it in the 30s and 40s, and we were doing it now. But he understood the business backwards and forwards. So I would give all the credit to the design of the Universal Amphitheater to Lou Wasserman, the chairman of MCA Universal. Well, I guess one of the things I should say is that I'd grown up in Central and South America because my dad was a Foreign Service officer and I spoke Spanish, still do. And I knew how big the Latin music scene was. It's just most of it was taking place at theaters in downtown LA. And now I was tasked with filling nights at the Universal Amphitheater and making money. So I was aware of some of these artists, and we decided to take a test drive, and we did that with an act named Jose, and lo and behold, we put him on sale, and the Latino audience just flocked to the amphitheater. They were thrilled that he was there and stuff, and we had all the great sound and lighting, etc. And we really raised the bar for how these artists were being presented, and it just snowballed into all kinds of crazy stuff. One time I think we had a 12-show run of Julio Iglesias during the Olympics that took place there, and Julio knocked it out of the park too. But so did many other Latino artists, Maná, any number of them. So it really became concerts in Espanol at Universal. It just made it easier for the audience, for our employees, to be able to speak Spanish and answer in Spanish. But the other thing we found out is that Latino community in LA is pretty bilingual. It's gotten bigger and bigger, and I'm remiss in not mentioning my friend Emily Simonich, who was on on board for all of this activity, and she really really helped move it forward. She had been working for the Universal Studio Tour, doing Latin tours in Spanish. But I met her by chance over there, and I said, boy, this is what we could use, is somebody that, really understands the Latino community here in LA and all of that. And so, yeah, we had a great time booking a lot of these artists. I was in charge of the Gordon Lightfoot concert because my two bosses were engaged at the Forum with the Rolling Stones show. And so I was sort of soloing for the first time. But Gordon is a great guy, great entertainer, and great singer. And we just had a really smooth night with him at Santa Monica, sold out, profitable, all that good news. So the show went off without a hitch and ended around 10 p.m. So that's when I sort of hit the parking lot, jumped in my car. I lived in Malibu at the time, but then I thought, geez, Jim and Steve have we've got the Rolling Stones at the Forum. Maybe I can catch a couple of songs, from the end of their first show. So I think I'll drive over there. So I did. I drove over there and fortunately found a really good parking space, even though there was a sold-out show going on there, and then people starting to arrive for the second show. They were playing two shows in one night. Now, sort of where the trouble begins is they had the Forum had hosted a LA Kings game the night before. Right. So there was ice on the floor, and the transition from ice to putting chairs on the floor and taking the ice out and putting chairs on the floor took longer than usual on that day. Exacerbating the problem was the amount of support acts that they had going on before the Stones. And one was a young English guy named Terry Reid, and then also B.B. King, and then also Ike and Tina Turner, and then the Stones. That's how it was supposed to run. So Chip Monk, who was the Stones production manager and stuff, had his hands full that day with kind of a lengthy load in because of the transition from hockey to the flat floor, and so that got a little delay. So there I was driving over to the Forum with all of that going on, but no knowledge of it at the time. And so I parked the car and I, walked down the ramp to the backstage entrance, and gave my name, and boom, cleared me, gave me a pass, and I walked in and I walked through the back door into the backstage of the Forum. And as I opened the door, I found myself this is about close to 10:30 at night, I found myself in the lineup of the Rolling Stones getting ready to go on stage. I was sort of between Bill Wyman and Mick Jagger and Keith on either side of me, and I'm going, boy, am I in the wrong place, because I was flummoxed that they weren't on stage, at least, why are they standing here? Well, the reason they were standing is they were getting ready to go on for the first show, because all of the aforementioned had taken place and taken much longer than was supposed to happen. So that was kind of interesting. So we saw that first show go, and they were spectacular and everything. And then for the second show, Chip had to, lose BB and Terry Reid. I think just Ike and Tina Turner played on the second show. And by the time the Stones got on, it's somewhere around 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., and they finished at sunrise. So that was a long, long night for the Rolling Stones in Los Angeles. It's a difficult question to answer. I'm sure there's some that obviously feel that way, but I also think that they're looking for people that are knowledgeable about who their artist is or the genre of music, and that person understands how to market and where to find that audience to maximize the act and also to help it grow. So that would be my answer in that case.